Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today as we'll be talking about how to eat and drink for sustained energy throughout the day. My name is Keku. I'm going to be a presenter today. We'll give folks a few minutes to log on and we'll start in just a few minutes. Okay, before we go into our topic of the day, I would like to give a quick introduction of our practice and the services we provide. Align Modern Health is a provider of integrative healthcare services and focuses on holistic approach to health and wellness. Our team of providers work together to get to the root of the problem, and they treat a whole person instead of just treating symptoms. Our services include chiropractic physical medicine, acupuncture, clinical massage therapy, functional medicine, and clinical nutrition. And to learn more about our services, you can schedule a free 15-minute consult with one of our providers to help you start your journey to wellness. Okay, thank you again for joining us today. Again, my name is Keiko Lewis. I'm a registered dietitian and one of the nutritionists here at Align Modern Health. As we go through our discussion today, please add your questions. If you have any questions, please add your questions to the Q&A and we'll address that at the end of the presentation. All right, a quick look at what we'll be talking about today. So this here is a summary of what we'll be focusing on as we think about planning a healthy meal and making the right food choices. These tools will help us eat a balanced meal to help maintain blood sugar throughout the day and prevent that post-lunch energy dip. We'll go into a little more details with how to structure that balanced meal and looking at each of the items listed above. We'll look at the ingredients that we need to be mindful of when we're buying packaged food. And we'll also look at tips for strategic snacking as well as hydration throughout the day. So we'll start with a simple plate diagram to help us visualize an ideal balanced meal. And of course, we know that we're not always in a position to sit down and have a round plate meal, depending on what's going on with our day. But even if you're having a sandwich or a burrito for lunch, you can still have this balance of nutrients in mind to help you eat a balanced meal to sustain your energy. So now going back to the plate, as you can see here, the diagram shows 50% of the plate is 50% of the plate is for non-starchy vegetables. And the reason we have half the plate for non-starchy vegetables is they provide a lot of nutrients. So it's nutritional dense food items that are going to be lower in calorie. So we can have half of a plate as non-starchy vegetables. And the next part of the plate is a quarter that is assigned for proteins. So we want to make sure we get a good serving of protein with each meal. And protein options here can be plant-based, animal-based, it can be fish, and even protein powders. So we have to think about different food items depending on our dietary needs and restrictions. The next one, we have starches. We have starches and healthy fats. Those two, they make up a quarter of the plate because they're nutrient dense and they're calorie dense as well. So we only need a little bit to help complete that plate, and we don't need a whole lot of that. And we're also going to have a little bit of fruit up here. And as you can see, fruit doesn't have any percentage allocation because we only need a little bit of fruit. Again, that's where we get a lot of sugar. It's nutrient dense, but we only need a little bit. It doesn't have to make up every plate. You can have it as a treat. You can have it as a snack in between meals, but that's something that we still want to make sure it's a part of our healthy diet. And I just want to quickly go back to the non-starchy vegetables. I know when we're thinking about veggies, we think about there's root vegetables, leafy vegetables, and all different kinds. So when we're talking non-starchy vegetables, we want to focus on your leafy vegetables. Things like kale and bok choy, and you can also get some broccoli in there, eggplant. So there's a whole list of non-starchy vegetables that we definitely want to make sure that that makes up a whole half of our plate. Okay, and as I mentioned, we'll quickly go over some ingredients that might be hidden in foods that may otherwise look natural and innocent enough. But there are things in there that we need to be mindful. Anytime you're buying a pre-packaged food, definitely look at the ingredient list and see what it tells you. So something like natural flavors. Natural flavor sounds innocent enough, but this can mean anything. It can be derived from plants, from animals. But the problem here is if you have dietary restrictions, you don't know exactly what's in the natural flavors. We don't know what the processing entails. We don't know what else is added with those natural flavors. So this can be a tricky one. It may or may not be a healthy item that's added in there, but just to be on the safe side, you want to avoid those as much as possible unless you know for sure it's specifying what natural flavors have been added. And of course, we see food dyes with a lot of different products, whether it's yellow 5 or red 20 something, all those weird kind of numbered dyes. And there's evidence that shows that they do have carcinogenic effects. So definitely want to avoid any food dyes at all costs. Another one is hydrogenated oils. So the process of hydrogenating normal, healthy vegetable oils, it actually creates trans fats. And we know that trans fats are not good for heart health. So if you're buying any product, look at the nutrition fact label, make sure that there are no trans fatty acids. That should always say 0. And definitely check the ingredients and make sure there's no hydrogenated oils. The next one is high fructose corn syrup. This has absolutely no nutritional value. It's just there as a filler, as a sweetener, and it's shown to cause weight gain, diabetes, blood pressure, and a host of other health conditions. Artificial sugars. These are a little tricky because they're usually promoted for people with diabetes because they say the body does not recognize this as sugar. So you can sweeten your food without getting the calories and all of that, counting the extra sugar in there. But the problem with these is they are non-natural products that have known carcinogenic effects as well. So definitely trying to find alternative options. Natural sweeteners such as stevia would be a better option there. MSGs, also known as modified yeast, that has been shown to have neurotoxin effect, and definitely one that we want to avoid, as well as nitrates, which interestingly can come from some vegetables. There's nitrates from celery, but the processing, what they do, how they get it to that powder product that is used to preserve things like deli meats, hot dogs, the processing and how it's used, it does have some negative health effects as well. Lastly, potassium and sodium benzoate. Those have been shown to have some negative effect on mitochondria and can cause low energy levels. So those are just some of the a few things to keep in mind when you're buying prepackaged foods. Definitely make sure you pay attention to the food labels, ingredient list, as well as the nutrition food panel. Okay, and this here is a great resource by an organization that we're in no way associated with, but we do recognize the value of the service and information they provide to consumers. AWG stands for Environmental Working Group, and they look at research, and they have information on different products and how they impact the environment. And one of the great resources here is their app. They have an app that shows you a product's nutritional and ingredient information, and it scores that according to whatever standards that they have there. And the scoring, it looks at the lower score. The lower the score of the product, the better the product. So an example here with the Laraba, which is just one product that was scored in this case. It shows you the ingredient list, dates, almonds, and all of that. So clean ingredients. And then it shows you the positive attributes as well as the negative attributes of the product. So it shows you it's organic, the ingredients are all clean, there's no concern there. But it makes a point that, hey, the sugar is a little higher, even though it's natural sugar, it's over 40% by weight. And that makes sense because you see dates as the first ingredient. So the good thing here is, the ingredients are natural, but it is a little higher in sugar content. So this is a great resource to use when you go shopping. You can look up some products if you're trying to bring in some new foods into your diet. You can look them up and make sure that they have a great score before you incorporate those. All right, a little bit about snacking. So this is where we really focus on helping the body keep that energy throughout the day. So we always think about our 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But because we want to make sure that the timing of the meals is just right, we don't want to go too long without eating. And we always say no more than 3-4 hours without eating. So this is where your snacking really comes in handy. So you want to make sure that your snacks are following the same balance that we were talking about earlier with our plate. And you don't have to have all the components, but if you can pair your carbohydrate and healthy fats, or you can pair a protein and healthy fats or something like that. So the strategic snacking here, we're talking about timing your snacking right in between meals and making sure you're having the right ingredients. So to help regulate blood sugar, you want to choose snacks that are going to be higher in fiber. And like I said, you pair that with the healthy fat. And you also want to be focusing on whole foods, fresh foods, instead of refined processed. So going back to this fiber, the high fiber foods, those are going to be our carbohydrates with high fiber, or nuts with high fiber. So when we're looking at carbohydrates, we want to make sure we're getting the high fiber because those are usually going to be the less processed, they're going to be whole and intact. So if you're getting a little more processed, that's when you risk spiking the blood sugar a little too high, and that's what's going to lead to that energy dip at the end of the day. So having that pairing your snacks appropriately, that's going to help fuel the body, give you the right energy, and keep the energy sustained throughout the day and avoid the dip. So the pairing, what it helps with is, instead of the carbohydrate breaking down into sugar and spiking the blood sugar, when you have those healthy fats, it kind of helps slow down the absorption of sugar. So it's nice and steadily absorbed into the bloodstream throughout a longer period of time, instead of a high spike and a drastic dip. Okay, and this kind of shows another good example of what we were just talking about. So it's showing a typical balanced snack right here. So with nuts give you a great value because you're getting 3 key nutrients that are in perfect balance naturally. With the raw nuts, you're getting a serving of raw nuts, you're getting some protein there, you're getting healthy fats, and you're getting fiber as well. And we have raw, yes, we want to make sure that the nuts are raw. That's where you get the benefits of your healthy fats, because once they're roasted, the fat content is not what it's supposed to be. It's changed a little bit with that heating and processing. So you want to make sure you're getting raw nuts to get those healthy, the health benefits of the healthy fats. And protein bars. Protein bars is another very quick, convenient way of getting a good snack in between meals. But as with any other pre-made, pre-packaged foods, you want to pay attention to some of the nutrients in there. Make sure there's not added sugars. We just looked at one protein bar that had dates as the main source of sugar. That's a natural sugar source. So I want to make sure there are no added sugars, because we have a limit as to how much added sugar should be consumed throughout the day. And we get it in so many ways. So whenever possible, whenever you're able to cut it out, do your best to cut it out. Sodium content, that's going to be another key one that you want to look at. If you're having a protein bar, make sure it's not too much sodium in there, because there are issues with sodium. If we're talking to individuals who are over 55, individuals with pre-existing conditions, you're going to have a limit of 1,500 milligrams of sodium, whereas the general population is 2,400 milligrams. So you have to think about where is your sodium content coming in. So if you're getting a snack that's going to be 300, 250, 300 content sodium, you want to definitely keep that down. Another thing is saturated fat. Keeping that saturated fat down. The magic number there is you want to make sure you don't get more than 10% of saturated fat throughout the day, and this is looking at a 2,000 calorie diet. So making sure that those three nutrients are as low as you can get them, getting a clean bar, that can serve as another great snack in between meals. And we have apples and nut butter. This is a favorite of mine, very simple, easy to make, very convenient. You can take this with. There are nut butters that are sold in like small little containers that you can take with. You just have your apple and you squirt the nut butter on there. So this gives you, again, you get some fiber from your apple. You get some protein from your nut butter or your seed butter, and healthy fats as well. So that's another balance that we're looking for. Olives, you're going to get some healthy fats from your olives as well, getting some fiber from raw vegetables. So getting that combination, that is key. And again, looking at the sodium content of your olives, making sure that you're not getting too much salt in one sitting. Guacamole or hummus with raw vegetables as well. Again, that's the same. That's the same combination that we're looking for, making sure you're getting those healthy fats, some protein there, and some veggies. Okay, and this one says, how you eat is just as important as what you eat. And this is very true. So this is where the timing comes in, the timing of our meals come in. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we schedule time, or we make time for our meals. It's very easy to say, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time during the workday, I hardly have time for lunch and all of that. The truth is there's always going to be 1,000 things to do throughout the day. And to be able to take care of all of those things, we need to take care of ourselves. So this is where we really need to prioritize. You need to prioritize your health, you need to prioritize your wellness, and you do need to make time for that, even if it's 5-10 minutes, to make sure you get something to eat to fuel your body, okay? So taking that time to just take a 5-10 minute break for lunch, being mindful with your eating, because it's very easy to eat, what do they call it? Work lunch. You're working while you're eating because you have deadlines and all of that stuff. We don't want to do that, because once you're eating mindlessly or distracted eating, we tend to overeat. We tend to go for the least healthy options. So eating has to be something that we really make time for, and be mindful and be intentional about it. And this here shows, from the a survey by the Right Management Group, they say 1 in 5 people report not taking actual lunch time because work is just overwhelming. But it shows that even if you take a 15-20 minute break, that's going to help you be a little bit more productive. So a lot of times you're thinking, oh, let me push this work and but it ends up actually slowing you down because there's only so much that the body and the mind can handle without the proper fuel and energy. So definitely being mindful and intentional about that meal times. And last but not least, hydration. So everything that we just talked about, if we take care of all the balance and making sure we're getting the right nutrients and all of that, but we forget to eat, that we forget to drink water, we forget to hydrate, things are not going to work as well as they're supposed to. So we definitely want to make sure we hydrate throughout the day. And the general recommendation is making sure you get half of your body weight in ounces. And we're preferably fresh plain water. And that half of the body weight is just, like I said, the general base recommendation. Your hydration needs change depending on what's going on. Your exercise, the intensity of your exercise, how many hours, how many minutes or how intense you're working out, and the temperature outside. Are you outside where it's 90 degrees, 100 degrees, whatever the case? So hydration needs do change depending on what's going on. But the bottom line is, let's try to get that half of the body weight in ounces. People ask a lot about sparkling water because for whatever reason, it's just more enticing. It tastes better. Yes, you can have sparkling water, but try to limit that to once a day. And again, try to avoid ones that are sweetened and flavored with things that half the time we can't pronounce. So clean sparkling water, just keep that to one a day. And again, speaking of the flavored water, some people who just don't drink water because they don't like water, there are ways to do that. I love the pictures down here. It shows how you can flavor your water with natural fruits, with vegetables. They have some cucumbers, some lemons, some berries that can help flavor your water without getting all the additives, the sugar, or anything else like that. So you can still get a little bit of serving of fruit with your water as well. Herbal teas do count towards your fluid intake, and that is something that we can incorporate as well. And it's recommended that you use a glass or stainless steel container because with plastic, there's chemicals that leach in the water, BPA being one of the ones that we hear about a little more often. And yes, hydration wraps up the presentation for us. If you have any questions, we'll take a quick look at the Q&A and try to cover as many as the time allows. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go. Okay, let's see. All right. There's a question there about salsa water. We just talked about that. Can you speak to the flavored salsa and if they're healthy, like LaCroix and things like that? Okay. Like I said, I just mentioned that. Try to stick to no more than one serving of that a day, and the rest try to get fresh water as much as possible. Any recommendations on nut butter or seed butter brands? As far as specific brands, I've seen one or two. I usually would say look for a nut butter that has that nut as the only ingredient. So if you're getting almond butter, it should just have almond as the ingredient. So if it starts having a whole lot of different ingredients in there, then we are probably, in a murky water. So as much as possible, stick to that one ingredient. And like I said, raw, unroasted, unsalted, that'll be the better options. And I think one brand I can think of is Justin's. I've seen that as having good reviews, Justin's. Let's see. And somebody shared another brand, Nutso. It's another brand that I've heard some good reviews with that. And why we should have one sparkling water a day. With sparkling water, you're still getting some carbonation in there, and we see a lot of GI issues. And I'm not saying that's going to be for everyone, but when you have high, what do you call it? When you have carbonation, it's like if you're drinking pop with carbonation, the only thing that you don't get is salt and all the other ingredients. So you want to limit that carbonation and try to get water that's just going to help things move along, because some people react differently to that carbonation. Pumpkin seeds. One question says, are pumpkin seeds high in sodium? Any of the nuts and seeds we just mentioned, any of those can be high in sodium, but you can get a raw, unsalted, unroasted ones. So you just have to be paying attention to the ingredient list and making sure that you're getting, like I said, raw, unsalted. And I've seen a lot of times it's easy to get the raw ones when you go to the bulk sections at the grocery store, where you actually pour however much you want. But when they're prepackaged, just definitely look at the ingredient list. What is your thoughts on kombucha? Kombucha is another good way to hydrate. It's got natural natural ingredients in there, the fruits, the fermentation. It's a natural process, all of that good stuff, and it has those good probiotic, good bacteria in there. So kombucha is another good way to hydrate, but just be mindful, it's still higher in sugar, even though it's natural sugars. So the trick about kombucha is when you buy that bottle, the small bottle, it's actually 2 servings in there instead of 1. So make sure you stick to the serving sizes. Okay, let's see. There's a question, is there a time of day that we should stop eating before bed? That one comes up quite a bit, yes. The recommendation is try to have at least 2 to 3 hours between your last meal and bedtime. And I always say to our patients that even with that 2 to 3 hours, remember there are recommendations, but because we all have such individualistic immunity things going on, you have to really pay attention to your body. Sometimes 2 hours may not be enough for one person, and 3 hours may not be enough. And just listen to your body. How do you feel when you go to bed after 2.5 hours of eating? If you still feel like you're a little full, if you wake up still feeling tired, then maybe you should have a little, longer period. Maybe make sure it's 3.5 instead of 2.5. But the general recommendation is at least 2 to 3 hours between your last meal and bedtime. There's a question here with regard to teas. Can you speak to ingredients on natural flavors? See, that's where the problem comes in with natural flavors. We don't know what natural flavors they put in there unless they specify, because some products, if they're trying to really be transparent, they will say natural flavors from orange peel, natural flavors from, if it doesn't specify what natural flavors are in there, there is no way of knowing what they've used as a flavor. So again, just be mindful of that. And if I know it's a little one more thing to do, but if it means emailing the manufacturer, they always have a telephone number there and an email. You can contact the manufacturer and say, hey, I really like your tea, but I'm not sure what natural flavors are in here. Can you provide a list of the ingredients that go in there, or can you clarify that? But I would say anytime it just says natural flavors, we have no way of knowing exactly what that means. I see one person saying, I sometimes get headaches from sparkling water. Is this common? That is a little more specific, probably something else going on. And like I say, I don't know if you're limited to one or if you get more than one. Some people will handle that carbonated water. Some people will not handle that as well. And I would say if you have some specific health issues that maybe arise from eating something where there could be a sensitivity, I would recommend that, you know, maybe reach out to one of our providers and schedule that a free 15-minute consult, and maybe you can get a little bit more personalized evaluation of what's going on. But again, try to limit that sparkling water to no more than one a day. Okay. Water temperature, does it really matter? That's another very individualized one, I would say, because some people don't handle refrigerated water and some people cannot stand temperature water. So whatever helps you drink more. If drinking temperature water is going to make it difficult for you to drink water, I would say yes, definitely refrigerated water. So the idea is hydrate, drink more as much as possible. Okay. All right. I think that's all the time we have for today. And everyone will be getting a recording of this video. And if you have any questions, reach out to our contact information. And like, again, there is that option to schedule a free 15-minute consult with our providers, and that will definitely help you get started on your journey to wellness. Thank you again for spending part of your afternoon with us, and you all take care. Thank you.